We're live, we're live. We're live. He sings, people! I would start singing and see what people do. And sometimes they dance, sometimes they sing, and he just jumped in. Great.
Hey-o, we're live right now.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, we need to talk about the singing. We need to talk about everything, guys. This is David Errigo joining us live from, I think, his living room, correct?
This is my living room. This is where I like to be comfortable. I still set us up with a mic so that it wasn't like really crappy sound. And
that
if
was
we
really
want,
fast?
I can show you my booth later. But
oh, sure, yeah. I do want to know about the pillows behind you. We got Dudley hanging out back there.
Yep. I decided to take some of the pre-production art and I made myself a silhouette little pillow. Because
you made
know
it?
that. Yeah. Well, I didn't like. I did the silhouette in Photoshop, and Shutterfly made the pillow.
Yeah.
But then I've got Ferb and Cubone. Those were sent to me from my mother. She went on Redbubble and found some designs that she liked and sent them to me. I like this Ferb.
Adorable.
She is. She's so lovely.
Yeah.
I like this Ferb, but he's a little bit of a sad boy. He's very pensive, which actually is pretty appropriate for Ferb anyway, because he's quiet.
Yeah. Where is your mom right now? What state?
Florida.
Are you from there?
No. I'm from North Carolina and moved around a lot because of the military. So I used to live where they live now, which is Satellite Beach, Florida. But born in North Carolina, raised for about 4 years there, then 6 years in North Florida, which is the other LA, Lower Alabama. Actually, North Florida, but so if I wasn't thinking about it, I probably would have talked to you like this if I had never gotten rid of my Southern dialect. So it was informed by, being born in North Carolina and hearing people around there, and then being, like I said, about an hour or two below Alabama in Eglin Air Force Base, which is about an hour away from Panama City. And then Central Florida.
And that was your speaking voice when you lived there?
Well, it certainly is natural in these chords.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, you just kind of go, I don't necessarily want to sound like that. So I sort of spent some time doing my own accent reduction, which I think was pretty natural from moving around because you acclimate to the different people that are around you. And there's not as much of an accent in Central Florida. And then from Central Florida, I went to Montana.
What's the accent like there? I have no idea.
Montana is actually pretty flat, but there are some words like flag, dragon.
Flag? Oh my God, dragon. Luckily, you don't see a lot of dragons there, so you don't have to talk about them too much.
They're gonna go down to the crick instead of the creek. So there's like some interesting isms, but it's not incredibly distinct.
Funny, okay, because we have ideas of like what Fargo is and what like the
North
Midwest.
Dakota, yeah, that has a whole different sort of sound to it, doesn't it?
Yes, it's so good. I crack up when I hear those accents. I just think I love accents, period. So I do like getting into that. And when you say you did accent reduction, was that like with a coach, or you just kind of taught
just
yourself?
having a spongy ear? Like, I'm someone who is kind of naturally a parrot. If I'm watching something on TV and I hear something that I think is interesting, then I'll just try and see if I can do it back, right? Just with there it is, and can I do this? Oh, that's Ian DeCasticker, and I'm watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and he sounds like this. So he's got the light Scottish dialect, right? But it's Agent Fitz on there, and you just sort of like start to see, what works. I find too, if I am binging something, if I'm taking in a lot of specific content, I will my speech patterns will modulate toward that. Even some of my pronunciation will go toward it. Like if I binge watch The Big Bang Theory, right? I did that for the first time this summer.
Dude, my sister's doing that now, so all I do is listen to Sheldon.
Yeah, well, and things started coming out of my mouth with a very Sheldon phrasing. Right now I'm listening to a lot of Smartless podcast.
Wait, I need a little bit of Sheldon. Like, what was that like?
Oh.
I know it's hard sometimes. Yeah!
When you're put on the spot, it would kind of be, Carolina, these are the jokes, and I didn't mean to say anything that would hurt your feelings. I just wanted to tell you something as it was. That's sort of like, it would creep in. It wouldn't be like a direct impression, but certain things would just sort of spill over.
Yeah.
I'm listening, like I was saying, to the Smartless podcast right now, which is Sean Hayes, Jason Bateman, and Will Arnett.
Those guys
and then they bring on a guest.
Yeah.
And so every now and then, right now as I'm talking to people, I find that Jason Bateman will come out of my mouth, which is actually not that far off from like a Ryan Reynolds. When you listen to the two of them, they actually sound a lot alike. In the way that they put things out there, too. They sort of phrase them similarly. Ryan often has a little more melody to his voice than Jason does. And, of course, he's got the sarcasm.
Yes! So good. Do you do a lot of voice matching?
I do a little bit, which is funny because it's not a conscious effort for me. I don't have an interest in being an impressionist, which is funny because one of my first big successes, obviously, is a voice match for Ferb.
Yeah, which we'll get into for sure in a bit.
But it's just, I don't put a lot of conscious effort into trying to match things. Certain things I hear and I parrot them back, and I know that they fit. Like, do you know Sean Giambrone? He's on the Goldbergs. He plays, like, he's the youngest kid, I think. He plays the author, or the writer, that version of him. Or, if you watch Solar Opposites, he's one of the young aliens. He's just sort of got this, which is actually pretty close to, like, a Jay Baruchel from How to Train Your Dragon. Come on, bud, let's go. Come on, Toothless. But that placement just always sort of fit for me, and I was like, oh, okay. Or like, come on, Mr. Stark, I think I really need your help, all right? Like a Tom Holland, that sort of works. Not Jeff Foxworthy, jeepers. Wow, I'm gonna get skewered for this. Back to the Future, Michael J. Fox. I knew there was a Fox.
Oh, got it.
You're like, come on, Doc. Are you saying that my kids turn into assholes? Like,
yeah.
Those kind of things, if I hear it and I can regurgitate it immediately, cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk about another of my favorite impressions that I always just loved the sound of, so I would regurgitate it. And that's where Dudley started. So when we get into that, I'll tell you about that.
We can get into it now. Make a seamless transition.
All right. So Dudley actually sort of came out of a road trip with my dad. I was with him driving from Ohio to Florida. He had bought a truck back from my grandfather. And we didn't turn on the radio once. We were just chatting like the whole time on the 16-hour drive. And at one point, we decided that we would read dad jokes. Whoever was not driving would read the jokes to the driver and chuckle. And for one reason or another, I decided to take on the personality of a surly Edwin. So, you know Edwin from Alice in Wonderland and from a lot of other movies too, and Alan Tudyk did a great Edwin in Wreck-It Ralph when he was King Candy, right? So he's this sort of lispy, sort of sort of fun, you know, if you watch Cinderfella with Jerry Lewis, he's the fairy godfather, and he's a great sort of thing. I've always loved his sound, right? And so I was reading these dad jokes, and like if my dad didn't laugh or whatever, what you didn't understand? Keep up, stupid! And that would make my dad just crack up.
Oh my God.
A couple of weeks later, Ridley Jones auditions came out under like a code name. It was something else, and I knew it was a dodo bird. And for one reason or another, I was like, "This is what I'm doing." I don't know if this is what they want, which. Honestly, it's a fool's errand to think that you ever know what they want anyway. Yeah. So I was like, no matter what, this is how I want to do it.
Yeah.
So I did, and wound up with the callback, which was amazing. And at the callback, Chris was like, "Oh my God, we loved your audition. Can you take the lisp out?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." And so then it becomes Dudley, whose his soul is actually a lot different than the character that I was reading the jokes with, because Dudley's a little more trepidatious about things. He's a little more worried, but he's an optimist, and he just wants to learn to fly. And he's sad about being the last of his kind, but he's happy that he has friends that are his family. And like, that's how we got there. So it's weird that like that impression that was in my brain led me to this original character, but you know, Hank Azaria says that that's a great way to do things anyway.
To do what? Have a character that exists?
Bad impressions.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Bad impressions can be great characters.
Yeah, for sure. Also because then it's not like, oh, that sounds like Ryan Reynolds doing that. It's just like your take on it, which is slightly different, plus a lisp or another whatever, and then all of a sudden it's this new thing that didn't exist. Did you send 2 takes as Dudley? Was one this guy and the other one was something else, or were you just like,
I don't think I did. I think this was one of those days, because this was pre-COVID. This was when I was able to go into my agency and do my auditions more, and I find that gave me a lot more of an impulse to just do one and stick with it. Because if I didn't have something else that I was like, oh man, this is wildly different and it's going to nail it to the wall as well, I'm like, this was good. I'm really happy with this. And I also had to sing, which I loved that the creative team sent music from Koeman and Diamond, who are the songwriters for the show.
So you'd understand the tone and genre.
Yes. It's one of those like silly spillovers from auditioning for musical theater for years that like I kind of hate. Sorry, any casting people who are listening to me. It's not that I hate you. It's just that I hate this idea sometimes. When they're like, and sing 30 seconds of a pop song. And sing 16 seconds of a classic musical theater song. I'm like, okay.
You want something more specific.
I love that because I think it's that much more information that I can give you, and it streamlines my process on my side.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are other people who are like, oh, this is great because I get to sing the song that I just kick butt on.
That I nail.
But I like to know if I can work within the framework of what I'm auditioning for. I love that with voiceover, we tend to get sides from the show. They're not like, bring a classic monologue. They're not
Thank God.
Pick a scene from your favorite cartoon, I guess would be the analog for it.
Yeah.
So I love, on camera and voiceover for the fact that we generally get to work with the material from what we're aiming at.
And have you always been a singer?
I have always enjoyed singing, yeah. I decided that I wanted to be a performer at like 12 or 13. Again, this is a story that revolves around my dad. He took me to a Bruce Springsteen concert, and he's from New Jersey, where I think if you don't like Bruce Springsteen, they still have some sort of like laws on the books where they can come after you.
That's crazy.
That's a joke, of course.
Yes.
But I looked at him, and for what felt like 3 or 4 songs, but could have honestly been like one concert version of a Springsteen song because he likes to stretch them out. My dad had this, forgive my French, shit-eating grin on his face.
Love it.
And
love it.
I said to myself that day as a kid, I was like, I want to do that for people.
Aww.
And then I started studying theater and choir. Thought I was going to do musical theater for the rest of my life, and then eventually found voiceover in New York just by coincidence, and was like, oh.
This was after college, in between. What?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
because I went to college in Montana. I got a Bachelor of the Arts in theater that I basically makeshifted into a musical theater degree.
Did you get to ride dragons in the musical theater?
I rode so many dragons, and what we did, we brought them down to the creek so that they could drink, but then we took the dragons, and what we did is we planted flags on all the mountains. We took a really special route.
I love it. A route.
No, I really thought I was going to do musical theater. I did summer stock with musical theater. I did a children's theater tour where I taught a musical to kids for a week at a time with Missoula Children's Theater. That was my first job out of college. I graduated in 3.5 years and filled that last semester with that before doing more summer stock. And then I moved down to Arizona, where, because my girlfriend at the time, who became my wife,
oh yay! Eddie. I think.
Well, now we're separated, but we're the best of friends. So it is a happy ending. It is. Great. It really is.
Okay.
That was not a trap, I promise. But we moved down to Arizona because she was going to get a degree in sport and performance psychology after her undergraduate degree. And I happened to have a relationship with a theater company through a director that I had worked with in the summer, and I became their house manager. Then performed with them at night, and then I became their graphic designer and show photographer.
Wow, you've done it all.
While performing for them at night. But then Jackie went to one semester of grad school and was like, this is not what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, okay. So we spent the next couple of years figuring out how to get out, moved to New York. Right when I got to New York, I wound up getting cast on Disney Cruise Line. So I went and did 9 months with Disney Cruise Line. Jackie went back to Montana. And then we moved back to New York again after all of that. And while I was there, I found a manager who brought me...
Wait, was the Disney Cruise Line fun?
I loved it. I missed her.
What were you singing? What were you performing?
So I was friends with Peter Pan in the Disney Dreams show. And in the Golden Mickeys, I was friends with the Luigi track and covered the Quasimodo track and the Tarzan track. I used to be a little fitter. And then on Toy Story, I was inside a giant puppet ham.
Oh my
God.
And
was the Buzz Lightyear cover. But I loved it. I loved the routine of it. Because, as an artist, we're so frequently unsure of what we're doing on any given day.
Yeah.
That having the same week on repeat for 28 weeks in a row for me was like, oh, great. I have that, and then I have these little points of sort of planned spontaneity where I can do whatever I want.
Yeah. So you would perform a different show every night, or it was like segments of,
So on Sunday, we would welcome the guests aboard, and we would have a welcome aboard show that also had...
welcome aboard the Disney Cruise Line.
Oh, God, what are... The behind the sun. Oh, I don't remember any of the words, but it's like Anchors Away or something.
Yeah. And you kind of do a whole like.
Oh yes, we would dance and sing and all that.
Are you a good tap dancer?
No, I am tap challenged for sure.
Okay.
I am a very strong mover. I can dance well, could dance well, I don't know anymore, if you had patience with me. I'm slow at learning choreography, but once I got it, I was always willing to put in the work.
Yeah.
Interestingly, during Disney Cruise Line, one of the choreographers sort of ripped into me and was like, "What are you doing? Why are you not getting this? You can like, what is going on?" And I just kind of took it. Already in the studio.
That was funny. That was hilarious. You went, I just took it. And I was like, oh, what's happening? We're good now. But that was incredible.
Okay. Yeah.
Was everybody weirded out? Danny was like, what? Yeah.
I can't move my cursor, so this is interesting right now. As long as we're good.
I think your microphone got disconnected because now I hear you a little bit differently, and I'm hearing you through your headphones, probably. But I still hear you great. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because my
And that's happened to me when my Scarlet gets out, and then it's just like, yeah. He took it a lot. Tamstry loves the dirty jokes. The chat is laughing.
That's funny.
So good. And then I have Fiend Slayer 2020 saying that he or she they loved watching Phineas and Ferb in a Turkish dub because that's where they live. Which is probably not your voice, obviously, but it's something.
All right. So now hopefully that's back to better sound here. I did a good old unplug replug. So are we still good?
Yeah.
Great. Now we're back. We
Awesome.
are back with the Focusrite Scarlett and the Sennheiser 416.
This is not a commercial. Sort of.
She came.
Sponsor me, please, on Twitch.
Yeah, right? Please?
Yeah.
I would love more free stuff. I will talk great things about you. She came in the next day and saw that I was in there working on it, trying to figure it out, because I knew that I was a slow learner, and I had written everything down after I left rehearsal that day and was referring to those notes, and she was like, all right, I get it. You'll get it. And everything was fine from there, but whew, am I a slow learner for choreography? I'll get there.
Well, luckily, you focus on your voice and not dancing choreography.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Once I got back to New York, I had a manager, and he set me up a meeting with Paradigm for on-camera commercial. And I wound up chatting with this on-camera agent for like 45 minutes and telling him how much I loved doing Avenue Q, because I had done a production of Avenue Q not too long before. Excuse me. And we finished talking, and he just sort of grabbed me by the shoulders and walked me over to the other side of the office and said, you two, talk. And who he had sat me in front of was a voiceover agent, and that was like legitimately the start of me thinking that this is an actually possible thing.
Yeah. And that was in New York City.
That was in New York City.
How long did you stay there before you moved out here? Because New York has voiceover. It's just not...
Yeah, for animation, it's not there. You can do dubbing, things like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! There's a lot of international dubbing that is not well known to American audiences that gets done. There's the occasional video game. Some celebrities record there, of course. Nickelodeon has a couple of things that have happened there.
Yeah.
But primarily, it's non-union, and primarily it's dubbing out there for animation. There's plenty of commercial. Plenty
Tons of commercial, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I was there for 2.5 to 3 years after I had figured out, like, I need to get to LA.
Yeah.
And how I figured that out even was just listening to Rob Paulson's podcast, Talking Tunes. I would run by the Hudson on these long, long runs and just listen to an episode at a time.
Yeah.
And the recurring theme was you've gotta be in LA if you want to do this. You've got to be in LA.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
What years were you in New York?
I moved out there the first time, I want to say in 2010, but then we were gone, and I was back in 11.
Okay.
No. Moved out in 11. Did the cruise from 11 to 12. Moved back in 12, and I moved to Los Angeles in 2016.
Dude, we moved almost at the same time. I was in New York for 10 years.
Wow.
And then moved beginning of 2017. Okay,
yeah.
Close.
I will be 5 years here in 5 days.
Yay! Yeah. Amazing. Okay, so, and it is crazy that, like, we wanted to do this in New York, but there's not the opportunity that there is in LA, so that's why it makes sense to be here.
Well, I think there's a little bit more right now, specifically, because of the
COVID.
pandemic.
Yeah, for sure. So you got out here, and were you with the same manager and agent, or did you find something?
I left that manager. I didn't feel like they could do much for me in the way of voiceover. They were doing well for me in theater. Like I got to do Frankie Camp for Jersey Boys, and like made it down to the producers a few times on that, but it didn't click, which is good because when I was looking at it, I was like, oh man, this would be a really great survival job while I pursue voiceover. And I'm like, let's make room for somebody who really wants to do this Broadway thing. Yeah. And that'll be okay. But I got out here, I had signed with Stewart Talent in New York right before I left. And the reason that we were able to leave was sort of a fortunate cluster of events. I booked 3 on-camera commercials for Microsoft Surface where I was a Christmas elf.
Yes!
From Macy's.
So good.
And I love Christmas. I was definitely appropriate for this role. This is like big fan. And those paid really well. They only aired them during the Thanksgiving parade on the East Coast and the West Coast, and I made 10 grand off of those 3 spots.
That's incredible. That's crazy.
So that money came in. And then my grandfather passed away that Christmas. And it was one of those things that was just like a reminder of life is short and you get one go-round. If you're not doing what you want to be doing, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And so plans came underway. We moved out. I met with Stewart's on-camera commercial agent here, and the first thing out of his mouth to me was, not a good time to be young, attractive, and white, but I'll be with you. I was like, okay, cool, that's fine. So then I met with a couple of other agencies around town. I think I met with Osbrink, and I want to say I met with one more, but they turned me down. But while I was doing regional theater out of New York, I had met Mary McDonald Lewis, who is a stalwart from the industry. She was the original Lady J in G.I. Joe. She was the voice of Lunesta, the voice of OnStar. She's been on the animation committee, the negotiating committee at SAG-AFTRA for I don't know how many cycles.
Yeah.
But she was the dialect coach for a production of Fiddler on the Roof that I was doing in Portland. And some of the other actors were like, while we were doing dialect sessions, and I was like, tell me everything.
Yeah.
So we hit it off really well. And when I got here, she asked, do you want to meet my people? And she's been with SBV for a long, long time. And I was like, yes, please. Because having listened to Talkin' Tunes, I knew that Rob had been with them for like 30 years, and it sounded like a really ideal place to be. I knew D. Bradley Baker was there. I knew Eric Bauza was there. I knew that there was a really, really incredible talent pool, which my brain went, great, that's who I want to be with then, because if these people who are awesome and are working all the time want to be there, then I do too.
Yeah.
And I know some people would maybe shut down at that idea and be like, yeah, but that means that I'm competing against that talent pool for submissions. And I'm like, I'm kind of the person who's like, tell me I can't.
Right.
At some level.
Right.
So instead of feeling that in any sort of negative way, I was like, that's exactly who I want to be competing
up
with.
against. Yeah.
And honestly, I get a little hippy dippy about some of the philosophical things with voiceover. Like, I would say up with instead of up against, because I'm not competing against anybody in this field for work. I'm competing alongside people for these opportunities. I also don't believe that actors face a lot of rejection. I think that that's a really crappy mentality that has been perpetuated through the years. I think what actors honestly face is a lot of quiet. Because I don't believe that any casting director is sitting there going, no, I don't want you. No. And I think that that's what actors internalize that notion of rejection to be, where really it's just quiet. And casting directors don't have the time in the day to tell us about every near miss that we've got. Exactly. And a near miss is not a failure. A near miss is not a rejection. It's a success. It's that you got to a level
that close.
Yeah. I try to encourage actors to take a moment and look backwards sometimes. Because if you imagine the analogy of like, if you're in a field and you're planting seeds, which every audition is a seed. If you're a farmer and you're looking forward, all you see is a barren field. And that can be crushing. But if you take a moment to look back, you can see all the plants that are growing. You can see the successes that you've had. You can see the little sprouts that are coming up because you've been awesome consistently, and people remember you that way.
Yeah.
The other notion that I love, I got from my buddy Brock Powell. He was telling me a story about a friend of his, and it was related to writing. And the punchline is, someone else's success is not your failure.
Exactly.
And, you know, it might sound, like I said, a little hippy-dippy, but I think that taking care of your headspace in these ways and reframing some of these ideas for yourself can be so liberating as an actor. Absolutely. And it can free up your choices. I mean... Absolutely. There are all sorts of fun little hacks that actors can do. Like, I suggest, if you're a SAG-AFTRA actor and you are working enough throughout the year to qualify for unemployment, always keep your unemployment claim open. It can be a pain in the neck for, you know, updating every 2 weeks so that you don't let it lapse, but the pressure that it takes off of you financially of having to book is amazing. Like, if I don't work on a given week, I just claim those monies. And because you're a union member, the employer has to pay you as an employee. So that's money that's going in there anyway. Yeah. It's different if you're an LLC. Then there's a whole nother bit of accounting that you have to do, and if you want to do unemployment, then your LLC has to pay into unemployment for you. But it's a whole different thing, and I think it's worth it.
Yeah, well, guys, is everyone taking notes? We do have some aspiring voice actors here, so we always throw them some tips. But what I want to know how the Phineas and Ferb thing came around. And I don't know how much you're allowed to share or not, because it was a show for 10 years, and then an audition for Ferb happened. How did you get to meet these people? How did they consider you? What went down?
It was the same as any other audition, really. I don't know the details of how the audition opportunity came to be, per se. Like, I don't know what the reasons were or what the discussion was. Okay. I just know that there was an audition for a voice match that went out for Ferb, and they sent a voice sample. And I did my very best to regurgitate just what was there. And I thought it was pretty good. Like, when I recorded it, I had my wife listen to it, and she was like, all right, I don't know that much about what you do, but if you don't get this, I'm really confused.
Yeah.
So I sent it, they sent it again, just to sort of like double check, I think, that it wasn't a fluke. I can't remember if it was a shorter timeline for return or anything like that, because you want the person to be able to do it on the spot, not have them have worked on it for, 3 days, and then when you come in for the session, it's like pulling teeth to get it out of them.
Yeah.
And when I was cast...
Were you a fan of the show before? Had you watched it?
I had actually gotten turned on to the show a few years prior. I was doing a theater production of a show called The Happy Elf, and I was playing the Happy Elf.
Yo, you and these elves, okay?
I'm telling you.
It's a recurring theme.
But one of the young men who lived at the homestay that I was staying at was like, you gotta watch this show. And I fell in love with it then. So Perry the Platypus has actually been my text tone since like 2012.
Oh my god. That's awesome. That's so cool.
So I was enamored with the show. I had never really tried to parrot Ferb necessarily, because I didn't figure there would ever be any sort of use for it.
Right.
But I did the audition, they cast me, I came in, and Dan Povenmire met me out in the lobby of LA Studios, and he goes, before you say anything, are you from England? We've got a bet going on, and Swampy is the only one who doesn't think so. And I said, oh no, I'm from North Carolina. If I wasn't thinking about it, I'd talk to you like this. And he goes, ah!
So he lost the bet!
And yeah, so we went in and did the session, and it was great. And I thought, here's some inside baseball. I thought I had completely screwed myself afterwards, because we were talking about some history, things that we liked, and I was talking about having recorded an album for a musical that I did in New York called Thanksgiving the Musical, where I played the killer turkey. And Scott Peterson, I think it was in there, and I think he's a big horror fan. And so he kind of knew this B film, and I was like, oh, well, if you want to hear some of the music, I'll sing it to you when we're done. He's like, yes, please. Okay, so I did, and there is some choice language. But and I'm just so excited to be there, and I'm going with my energy in the room, and I finished singing this terrible song. It's a great song, but it's got some...
Can you sing us a clip?
It'll be colorful, but it starts, rising up from the pit of hell, I'm a feathered fiend with a gravy smell, a beast let loose from a demon's cage, an avatar of the red man's rage. I'm turkey, not a sucking swan. I'm turkey, like the wrath of Khan. I'm a psycho killer, qu'est-ce que c'est? So you better not get in my way, or I'll run you down like a gobble gobble mother.
Okay, and you sang it full on out with all the words.
I just sang that free and clear, and I left, and I was like, I just did that for Disney. Oh God. I'm never gonna get to do this again. And then it turned out that Swampy used to do these things called Last Fridays down at Surfer Jack, and I popped over there for one and just started getting to know him better, and I started getting to know Dan better through Brock. He sort of connected us more socially, and the more I got to know these guys, like, the more I just fell in love with them. But at one point I was like, so I was terrified when I did this.
Yeah.
Afterwards I was going circles with myself, and Swampy was like, it's no.
They're like, dude, we're also adults who use swear words. It's fine.
Yeah.
For Disney, we won't use them, but in real life, we do.
Right.
Oh my gosh. So wait, you just did Phineas, you did the whole thing in one session?
I did. I was actually doing ADR because I think Swampy had done the scratch track for it. And, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. I think the lines were, now it's time to whack some weeds. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to say that? It's just that it's been a long time. And there might have been, like, Murphy's Law? And, huh? Oh my. You know, so, like some more of that stuff as well. But that's the entirety of
So Ferb doesn't talk a lot in that movie?
Ferb barely speaks. Well, and this was for the Milo Murphy's crossover. That was the first thing. And, like, if you watch the show, Ferb very rarely speaks. People will be like, yeah, he doesn't talk much. And then, of course, an early joke was always that Ferb would go, well, actually, and then someone would cut him off.
Got it.
That's the why.
Love it. Okay.
He's got a few monologues in a couple. Like, there's this one where a chameleon gets turned giant. And, he oh, sorry, one second.
Is that your casting
part
thing?
of that casting thing.
Yes.
I just need
Guys, he's on call for a job. It's like he's in the ER and he has to go and do some surgery while we talk. I told him I would do the hokey pokey and I turned myself around, and that's what it's all about. Hey! Well, he does work. Yeah, we're allowed to swear on this, guys, but, you know, every guest decides how much they want to swear or not. Who knows what those bleeps were, though?
Oh, yeah. Well, you can download the album if you really want to hear it, and there are 4 reprises of that song.
Love it. We have somebody who said they watched it. Cyber Sofrato. I remember watching Thanks Killing. I don't remember much. I had quite a bit of alcohol.
Well, there was a movie, and then we were the musical version of the movie, which was great. And we did that in New York. Okay, so
the monologue of the chameleon.
Right, he's got like a monologue where there's this giant chameleon, and it's his Henry V. Friends, brothers, we on this day, you know, that whole monologue. I don't know it. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. You should though.
And then we did the movie, and I did get to have a decent little chunk of lines. There was a cool thing, but like Ferb is also a great role to have and an ironic role to have and be excited about it because he doesn't speak much. But one of the great things about that is you get a full session rate. And you're called for 15 minutes.
Yeah,
where
it's amazing.
You show up, you work for 7 minutes, or excuse me, you chat for 7 minutes, you work for 3 minutes, and then you chat for another 5 minutes, and you're done. And you get a full session rate. Awesome.
My last session for Ridley Jones was literally 15 minutes, and I was out.
There you go.
Yeah.
And in the movie, I got to do something that had only happened, I think, once before, and that was sing with Ferb's voice. Because Ferb generally was replaced by someone else, and it was sort of a gag that they used throughout the show. So that was cool.
That's super fun. Have you gotten to work with them since? Are they going to have, besides the movie, do you think there will be another?
I haven't. I can only hope. I mean,
because the fan base is rabid. You know, Dan Povenmire has 4.5 million followers on TikTok.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the movie did exceptionally well for Disney Plus, and it just won. The writing team just won an Emmy.
I know. What a big deal.
So, like, I think it would be a waste not to. But I'm also just hungry to play with these guys more. I wanna be, in the studio with these guys playing because it's a great way to spend the day. Yeah. I look at the catalog for Phineas and Ferb and I think about some of the economics, right? They've got something like 260 segments on the streamer.
That's crazy.
So there's access to that for anybody who wants to watch it, and that's a lot of content to go through. So it kind of de-incentivizes striking up the whole pipeline again and doing new episodes.
Yeah.
Even though I would be so down for it, I'm pretty confident that Vincent would be down for it. He and I text back and forth every now and then. Vincent Martella, who plays Phineas, for anybody who's listening and doesn't know. I would love to actually get to sort of have the show come back and have it be a big thing again, and do press with him and have excuses to hang out with him.
Yeah.
And Dan and Swampy, obviously.
Did you work with Alison Stoner?
I did not. I didn't get to meet her.
My
but
first
I have
TV...
met Olivia.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was just going to say the funny and weird thing is my first... I was working as an extra in New York on Step Up 3D, and I played her best friend in that movie. And then the next day, I got a line, which got me into SAG-AFTRA. And so I played Alison Stoner's best friend in Step Up 3D for all of 7 seconds. And that's what got me into the union.
Great. Welcome.
Yeah, exactly. Little things like that.
So I see it as, in my brain, when I think of the economics of it, I'm like, if I had to guess, and universe, this is pure speculation, I don't have any information on this, it would make sense for them to trot out a new movie every couple of years to renew the interest in the existing catalog. But I would. There's not a lot I wouldn't do to influence that coming back to series, because
totally. No, of course. Is there a voiceover gig that's been, besides Dudley and Phineas, because they're such huge and beautiful projects and characters? What's one of your favorite voice projects that you've worked on because you just love the character so much, or the voice that you invented is just so unique?
Well, I really did love doing Cubone for Detective Pikachu. That was great. Anybody?
What does he sound like?
Let me turn the gain down a little bit. So if you've seen the movie, it's like the first 10 minutes of the movie, the main character goes out and he is convinced by his buddy to try and hunt this Cubone, who is just, crying because his mom isn't there, and so... It's... Cubone! 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 And so...
How do you not F up your voice like that?
Trekkie Monster. When I did Avenue Q, I played Trekkie Monster and Nicky and a Bad Idea Bear. So Nicky is he's sort of a Kermit sort of sounding character, Oh, hi, Rod! If you were gay, that'd be okay. I mean, 'cause hey, I'd like you anyway.
Yes, so good. That's such a good musical.
Oh God, I love it. And then the Bad Idea Bear.
Oh my gosh, he froze on us. You froze on us. You're back. You're back. No.
All right.
This time it was the video. Yeah, but now you're back.
So the Bad Idea Bear was kind of like a more drinks, more fun, yay!
Oh my God. You're really good. You have range, man, because that's really high pitched.
Oh my God, thank you. That's one of my favorite tricks to pull from home in my home booth. Like if I'm doing commercial, I'll read the copy back. Like as if it was this girl, and they're like, wait, did somebody step into your booth? No, that was me.
That's incredible. Usually, like, we play little boys in cartoons, and dudes don't usually play little girls, but you could totally do that.
And if you really want to live in a littler one, then you could do that too.
Not creepy at all, coming out of your face.
Right? Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
But I was lucky enough when I did Avenue Q to learn from the puppeteering from a guy named Rick Lyon, who was the original Nicky Trekkie Bad Idea Bear track. And Trekkie is sort of a Cookie Monster type sound. So, me up all night honking me horn to porn. Yeah, so Trekkie Monster, he will talk to Kate Monster, right? And everything does sort of sound like it would be really crunchy and painful on the voice. But,
Rick Lyon, who is a wonderful man, he has been inside me. See the joke I made?
He sort of taught me where to place that and be able to do it 8 shows a week.
Yeah. Wow.
And I've been able to take that and utilize it in other spaces. The first time that I auditioned for Cubone, I didn't pay attention to that stuff. I forgot that I had that skill.
Yeah.
And I still sent it, and I was like, God, I hope I don't book this. If I do, I'm going to be out of commission for a week. But then they sent a callback round, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do it a little different and a little healthier. And I was lucky that I booked. And yeah, so that is one of my favorites. That also is one of my most fond memories in the waiting room, because I got to sit and get to know Brad Venable a little bit better, who's
I don't know him.
a tremendous voice actor and advocate for the union,
cool.
who passed this year from complications from COVID.
Yes.
So I treasure that memory as well. Whenever I can, I throw in, like if I'm doing incidentals, whenever I can, I throw in that lady voice just for funsies.
Of course, why not? So good.
I like that. I like throwing in like a Jerry Lewis, you know, lazy. So there's that's a favorite. If you go back to the Phineas and Ferb movie, Candace Against the Universe, there's this cardboard cutout spider that's trying to stop these aliens, and it's got a speaker attached to it, and it's like, roar, I'm a scary spider, roar. And I was just doing like a bad Jerry Lewis, and it cracked them up, and so that got to stay in.
But that's funnier, though. You know what I mean? Doing a bad Jerry Lewis, like adding like all the layers, you know, because it just makes it so much more interesting, you know? Mm-hmm. Is there something that's coming out that you can talk about that you're excited about, or are they all NDAs?
Oh, see, that's the thing. I do have something coming out next month, but I still can't talk about it. So
okay, we're excited. Guys, give him a follow on the Insta. Danny's putting it in as we speak because she's a machine. And that way y'all can follow him, just because, damn, there's some pretty good stuff coming out of this character here.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I keep an active note in my phone that is, I labeled it something to talk about. And I probably have about a dozen or so things that are just sort of waiting in the wings that I can't talk about, and it makes me crazy because I would love to share everything with everybody and be like, totally, I got to do this and it's so much fun, and it's just part of our job is to have that patience. Yeah,
for sure. And sometimes it's like years. Like I have a project right now with somebody I met at Dan Povenmire's house that I'm just like, when already? I just want to share it, but it's probably been 2 years. And so then sometimes I forget about it, and then I'm like, all right, that's a thing that's going to happen at some point.
Oh yeah, the thing that's coming out next month, I recorded for the first time on, I want to say March of 2019.
Oh my god. Yeah, like, gosh. So we did get one question from Shazir, and it's a tricky one, so let's keep it the answer concise, because there are so many ways to go with this. But they are asking if it's reasonable to do VO work super part-time. They're already a full-time software engineer, but through running a D&D game online with voices and soundboard, blah, blah, it's got him interested. We can't really, we could do this part-time for fun, but it's a tricky thing. What are your quick thoughts on that?
I think there are There are avenues to do that. You know, there are online casting sites. I have my own personal issues with the online casting sites, but far be it for me to begrudge someone else doing it. It's where I started when I found that I had an interest.
Yeah.
I do think that they are hurting a lot of professional actors and a lot of our industry in terms of the strength at the negotiating table, but I understand the niche that they fill as well, so I get why they exist. So there are ways to do it. You can do, I would suggest especially like non-jurisdictional stuff, so your phone systems, your...
Or educational videos, yeah.
Great. Awesome. You're going to be really hard-pressed to get into any sort of AAA content for video games by doing it part-time. You're going to be really hard-pressed to get into any of the major streamers' prelay animation, any of the channels' prelay animation, unless you are working in software for one of these companies, because then you see people pop out on occasion where it's just like, oh yeah, they were around the creators and they just have this really unique and interesting voice or sensibility, and suddenly they are a recurring character on the show. Yeah. Because they were plucked from obscurity. That is the exception and not the rule, I would say.
And it is one of those things that we're constantly working at. Like, I was just thinking about my folder of VO auditions, and I got hundreds of them in there. You know, like, we do so many to book that one, that if it's a part-time thing, if you send 5, you probably won't book a single one, because we need to send 20 or 50 to book one. So
I am satisfied with a booking ratio of 1 in 100. I am doing awesome if I book 1 in 100 auditions. Yeah. Which sounds crazy, but that is how I look at it. And honestly, I looked at that a lot more in the beginning, and now I don't even consider it. It's just, I know I'm here for the long game. I know that I'm going to continue doing this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So, why do I need to know how many auditions I did versus booked? Am I making a living doing what I want to be doing with my life? Yes. Cool. That's the bar.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we stop quantifying everything, and it's just like, no, because those auditions sometimes help us create a new character, because all of a sudden there was this image that was so crazy that we're like, oh, that inspires this weird voice, and then now I can use that for something else. I remember listening to Michael Rosenbaum's podcast. He's an actor on stuff, but he was interviewing, I can't remember what actor, and they were saying, you know, your auditions go towards the 10,000 hours of mastery. Because sometimes we go, oh, why am I auditioning for this if I know they're going to give it to a celebrity? I know they're going to choose somebody else, you know, or there's reasons for them not to choose me. But it's not about that. It's about putting in the work that's still you tightening your craft. And it's not like just the bookings are the work that counts. The auditions are the work that counts.
Well, there was the work of the work is auditioning.
Yeah.
Finding jobs. When you have a job, that's not work. It's not work.
Exactly.
And when I was doing musical theater, people would say, you have to learn to love auditioning. And I was like, you're full of shit. Nobody loves auditioning. And then I started auditioning for voiceover, and I was like, oh, I'm happy whether it's, I'm coming for you and everyone at your village, or it's a commercial spot that is, check, gentlemen, I'm happy to be in my booth. And I am happy to have that opportunity to audition. And so I owe a lot of people a lot of apologies who were telling me, you have to learn to love auditioning. And I told them they were liars. I think that there are people, you know, probably in musical theater who are like, this is my opportunity to perform today, and can really actually ascribe to that idea. For me, it was always a bit of a hardship. I was always like, come on, this is a pain.
Well, I think that auditioning for film, TV, and theater is a little bit different, because we're going in person, we got to memorize this thing, or we got to feel like we have to memorize it. I think that VO just takes the pressure off, because nobody's looking at you for the most part, and you get to read, so you really just, and if you fuck it up, you just take it again. There's like this very different freedom that VO gives us that I love.
Well, and I don't know about you, but like the volume of auditions gives you so much less ability to be precious about it. You forget, you do it. You just do it and you forget. Like if you're getting 1 to 2 auditions a month for theater or film and TV, it's hard not to be a little precious about each of those and like think about whether or not it's going to work afterwards or whatever. Now I'll occasionally get cast on something and just be like, what did I do for that? I have to go back to my files and re-listen to the audition.
I don't even do that. I show up at the session and I go, could you play some reference for me? David, as we wrap up here, is there any awesome advice that you'd love to leave these listeners with? It doesn't have to be VO. I think it can apply to just life and how we move forward, because no matter what we're pursuing, it is, we get rejection or we question ourselves or we doubt ourselves. Like, besides the, other people's bookings aren't our failures. Like, what's one of your life mottos that helps you get through the day?
Well, I have a few things that I lean on. One, I want to reiterate, I don't think actors face rejection. So don't worry about that. Don't put that pressure on yourself. Don't think that you're constantly facing rejection. 2, the worst question is the one never asked, because then you'll never know. And then for VO specifically, never worry about trying to give them what they want. Do it the way that you want to do it.
Hack the planet.
And you'll get all the roles that you're right for.
Yeah.
If you bring you authentically and your perspective and your approach and your headspace, you'll get every role that you're meant for. So that's, yeah. And then another secret that I'm especially learning now that I'm doing casting, I started working on something this week.
Yeah.
In many ways, even though casting puts out the breakdowns and things like that, they don't know what they want until they find out what they want. And that's your job. And casting really wants you to be successful, because if you're undeniable, then we can move on and put out the next fire.
Yes, absolutely. They want us to succeed. They want us to be the next thing that they just can't say no to. Yep. So, absolutely.
Nobody is sitting there hoping to get awful auditions or expecting to.
Right. Love it. So at the end of the stream, we always thank whoever subscribed in a funny voice. We have 2. Well, I'll boop the other one. So 1, do you mind helping me out with that? Thanking for a 1-month subscription to the darling Chat 3718.
Well, Chat 3718, we're so happy that you decided that you would subscribe for a month, that we can hope that sometime in the future you're going to subscribe for a year.
I couldn't tell if that was a baby or a really old lady without teeth.
I think I don't know. Sometimes I just go with placement.
I loved it. Whatever the hell it was amazing. And Shadow Starve BC gets a boop from Sombra. Boop. David, thank you so much for being here today. This was really awesome. I selfishly really love learning about the people I have on it's not just for the chat, it's for me to get to know you and your trajectory and there's so much more obviously to delve into. We didn't talk about a million things, but it is fun to see where it goes depending on, what you choose to expand on. So Thank you for making time, for being here. The chat is thanking you. They love this. And good luck with your casting.
Thank you. It should be fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Should be fun.
Guys, keep booming and booping. Woo!